All right. Cool. Happy Saturday. Hello, everybody. If anybody's here, absolutely fine. If it's just me and the camera. Yeah, so I had a little work scheduling conflict on Friday, and that won't happen again. I blocked out my calendar at the new job, so should be good. But today we're going to do a doubleheader, which is really exciting. If you don't know what a doubleheader is, it's a baseball term for when you get two games back to back. I think for the price of one. I'm not a baseball fan, but I think it's a good deal, particularly if you are a big baseball fan. So, but it's the same two teams, where in this case, it's two different teams. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a to-do MobX example first. And then we're going to do a really cool SVG lava lamp with React and Typescript. So really cool stuff. But let's get into the MobX stuff first. And of course, feel free, because this is a live stream, to ask questions at any time. And just, so I want you to come away from this understanding a little bit about MobX, a little bit about TypeScript and how it impacts MobX. And really it doesn't, because it's actually really pretty straightforward. But yeah, let's jump into it. And if you have any questions or you want me to try different things out, I think that's one of the great things about these live streams is it gives us the opportunity to do that. So I just got back from a long run, so I'm going to hydrate every once in a while. I'm going to turn off my mic so I can take a sip of water. Okay, cool. So this is MobX, and it's a bi-directional state manager. We're sort of used to unidirectional state managers because React has been doing Redux for so long. There's Redux and React. In this one with MobX, you basically have essentially just a class, and you just go and set it. So you set parts of that class, and it just updates stuff. So let me go and clone out the code that we're going to try out. So go over to my TMP directory, and I'll git clone that to-do base, and we'll call this to-do MobX. Oh, it already exists. Okay, do it live. There we go. And I'll go into the code on that, to-do MobX live, just for you. People always ask what this theme is. This is Apollo Midnight. And it's a little bit tweaked because I like a different font, and I like the italics. So I've gone and tweaked it a little bit. If you want the tweaking, I'll go and put it on a gist for you, and you can have it. I like the look. Okay, so let's go over our MobX documentation. Figure out what we're going to need to bring in. We're going to need to bring in MobX for sure. So I'll do yarn add MobX. And then, like a lot of these state management libraries, particularly the bigger ones, they work in different environments. So I'm going to bring in MobX React. Let's do light. I did the regular strength one in the original video, so I'll just do the light one on this one, and I'll go and add that in there. All right. So while we're looking at this, what we're going to do, let's take a look around at the code while we're here. So we've got some components, and we've got a store. The store has what a to-do is. So a to-do in this case is an ID, a text string, and a done, whether you've done the to-do or not. We've got a lot of these handy helper functions: update, to-do toggle, toggle to-do, remove to-do, add to-do. Add to-do adds the to-do to a list. And these are functional programming style helper functions. They basically take a list of to-dos and whatever you want to mutate. In this case, let's say we want to add one. It takes a string and sets that to done false, so you get a new to-do. And then it just returns a new list of to-dos that has that new one added to it. So a nice kind of functional programming style look and feel to that. All right, let's go bring up our app and have a look around, see what it looks like. I see a few people went into the chat. Thank you, folks, showing up, spending a little bit of your Saturday with me. Jump on, say hello, let me know you're there. Let me know if you're interested in all this. And, let me know what you're doing with the weekend. Got great weather here in Portland. It's very exciting. Beautiful. I got my first grilling in, outdoor grilling, earlier in the week. So that was really nice. And guys, kind of like it's like an end of winter thing. Like, that you're coming out of winter when you can start doing some grilling. And of course, as always, the rocket ship in the background is for you to play with. You can go onto the Discord server and go into the Lightbot channel there and then set that to whatever you want. I'm going to do color purple. And there you go. So I'm going to change it to purple. Cool. So you can feel free to play with that however you want. All kinds of good stuff in there. Okay, so here's our to-do list. It's got a dark light theme toggle. This is a Chakra UI based template for TypeScript, and it gave me this little toggle here for free, so I just kept it around. There's a load button that's going to load up some to-dos from a JSON file that we've externalized. So just to show you how fetching works, because you want to make sure that your state manager handles asynchronous code. We've got our to-do list, which is going to list our to-dos. There's no to-dos in there yet. And we got a place where we can go and click on add to-do here and add a to-do. But none of that works because we need to go and add a state machine to make it work. Or do we really? Actually, the first video was that you don't really need one of these, but that's okay. We're learning some good stuff here. So we're going to look at how this is working with MobX. So let's see, is there a good walkthrough here? Okay, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to create a class, and we're going to use this make auto observable. So let's go bring in that from MobX. And I don't actually need a bunch of these, I certainly don't need them exported, so I'm just going to take those down. And then I'm going to go and create a new MobX implementation. And that starts with building a class. So we'll call this class to-dos. Sounds good to me. And it's going to have a list of to-dos, which would be the to-dos. And we'll just start that off at an empty array. And we're going to have our new to-do, which would be the string that we are going to have in that string. And typing in the new to-do, that's where we're going to store it. And let's see. So I go back over here. The one concession you have to make to MobX is you have to do this make auto observable. So we're just going to do that. We're going to throw that into our constructor. Nothing else really to do in the constructor. And let's see. So one more thing I need to do before we put it into the code, I want to create like an add method. So I'm going to call it add to do. Oh, wow, that's cute. That's self-referential. All right. And in this case, we are going to say that my this to-dos equals the add to-do. I'll call that function that takes the current list of to-dos and then the new to-do. And it sets the new to-do to an empty string. So when we click on the button, it's going to go and add it and then set that array and then set the new to-do to that. So we got to make ourselves a store. So we'll create it and we'll just do a new to-dos just like you would any object in C++ or in TypeScript. And then we'll do export default and we'll export it out. Cool. Okay. So let's go over here to our to-do add. And that'll be the first thing we're going to do. We're going to allow the customer to actually add a to-do. So we're going to bring in first the store. All right. And let's see. So now we need to connect it to the store. And the way that we do that, let's go back over here, is we import observer from MobX React Lite like that. And then all we got to do is just wrap this component in that observer. And now it's going to, oh, there's a big delay between the audio and the sound. That's weird. Sorry about that. I'll see if I can. Don't really know how to fix that. Is it okay? Let me know if it gets any better or what. Should be fine. Sorry. It usually is okay. Okay, so let's see. I need to go and set the value here. And I'll just set it to whatever that new to-do is. And here's the fun part with MobX. When you set the value, all you got to do is, I'm just looking at my signal chain. Should be good. Is set the value in that object to whatever you want. So EVT target value in this case. So that's how we would set that value. And this is kind of like for a lot of people, they're like, oh my God, I'm not setting something. I'm not calling a function. But that's the great thing about MobX. You can just have that unidirectional data connection or bidirectional data connection, and it works just fine. So then in our onClick on that add to do, we're going to do store.add to do like that. And check it out. So you get all that nice hinting and stuff as well, of course, from Typescript. So now I know what everything's doing in here. So the add to do is great. Hey, Alex. Hey, Alex, if the sound is really off, let me know. And yeah, that's a bummer. Okay, let's go check it out over in the code here, or in the browser. So add a new to-do. Boom. Okay, good. So this now is empty, which means that it's probably added to the list, but we don't know it yet. So let's go over here to the to-do list and then go and connect it to it. So let's go over here we're going to go bring in the observer and the store. And again, we're going to use this observer. So we need to go and take this to-do list items, which is going and looking at that store, or should be, and we need to wrap it. So let's go and do const and then say that we have a to-do list items observer, observable, observed. There's a 5-second delay? Really? 5 seconds. Okay. That's not good. Okay. Hey, Ayush. Good to see you. If we really do have a 5-second, 0.5 second delay. Okay. That's bad, but not the worst thing ever. Yeah, it's annoying. Okay. So a 0.5 second delay. All right. Sorry about that. Okay. I will endeavor to get that fixed the next time around. I apologize for that. But we'll get it figured out. Okay. So let's continue on. So we're going to do to-do list items. Just don't look at my mouth. It's all good. And we'll observe that. And then that's going to create a new object. So our new functional component. So let's just drop that in there. And then in our case, all we need to do is just say store.todos. Yeah, it's OBS Studio. And get rid of this. And let's save it. And it's possible. There you go. Look at that. Hi, Rodrigo. Yeah, 0.5 second delay. That is big. I'll give you that. Well, we'll figure it out, and then we'll do like an unlisted live stream, figure out all the settings and all that. But I do want to go and make sure that I don't know, we get through this one. Bummer though. All right, so let's do. So we've got it going. We got a new to do in there. That's what I did before. Let's try it again. Another to do. And let's add that. Cool, nice. But now these like delete and all that, that's not working. So let's go and fix that. First off, we'll go and set the checkbox to checked. You can use actions in MobX, but they are not necessary. They are not required, which is great. So if you just want to do this, but there is like a strict mode where you can only route mutations through actions. All right, so let's do an on-click. And in this case, all we're going to do is we're going to set the to-do done to not to-do done. And that's just going to flip it just like that. And then when it comes to the text, we're going to make an on change and set that to do text to the new text coming in. And there you go. So let's try that out. Boom, boom. Looking good. Making changes just fine. I like it. Looks really good. And let's do the on delete. We'll call that delete to do. Yeah, I think we're going to get through this to do, and then I'm going to cut this short because half a second is not great, and I really want to have a video that you guys can watch and be engaged with. So I am going to go and cut this short once we get through this, and then I'm going to work with Alex and debug why we have a half-second delay on this. All right, so in this case, this .todos is the delete or remove to do. And then we give it this to-dos and also an ID, but we need that ID, so let's go and put that in there, ID a number. Okay. And then go over here to our to-do list. And then on the click, we do a store.delete to-do. Oops, not new to-do, but delete to-do. And then give it that ID. And let's try it out. Okay, so let's add one. And then delete it. Hey! Beautiful. How quickly that works. Awesome. But if you're like, oh man, really? Does this actually work? Is it? Okay, that's weird. I will say, Alex, that the OBS Studio has changed. It used to be that I could just click go live and it would automatically talk to YouTube and then get it all set up and get it rolling. And it doesn't do that anymore, so it's kind of a drag. In fact, I left the last week's live stream going for like another 3 hours of streaming just because I totally forgot to just go back on YouTube and say, shut down. Okay, so, but I will watch the video and see if there's something I can do. Okay. So as we said, I was just talking about, let's go make sure that this is actually changing. So I'm just going to go down here. I'm going to observe this to-do list right here. So now this guy can watch the store. And I'm just going to put a div in there. And that's going to have a JSON stringify of the to-dos in the store. So that's going to show us the current contents of the store. You can see an empty array there. So add one. There you go. And now as I type, you can see it actually is updating the store. Everything's working fine. So it's very easy. That's what I really want to show. Okay, can I show my VS Code theme? Sure I can. So this is Apollo Midnight. Apollo Midnight color theme. And there you go. So let me see if I can get you a link. Something like that. Anyway, there you go. There's the Apollo Midnight theme. That's what I use. But I do tweak it a little bit so that I can get these italics. Okay, cool. So the last thing I want to look at when it comes to MobX is how to do the asynchronous fetch. So over here in the top bar, we've got a JSON URL. Let's go and open that up, take a look. And it's got a JSON payload in here that we're going to use to then connect to or replace the existing store. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm just going to create a load function on the store. So I create an on-click here. And this is going to call like store.load, and then we give it that URL. Of course, we need to bring in the store, so let's go do that. And we'll go over to store, and we'll add a load function. And we'll just say that we want to fetch that URL. And then once we get that back, we'll have a response. From that response, we'll get the JSON. And then with that data that's come back, we're just going to set those to-dos. All right, let's take a look. So let's hit the load button. Hey! Doesn't get a whole lot easier than that. So a nice alternative for you. Let's go take a look at Bundlephobia and see how much you're going to pay for your MobX awesomeness. And this is, I think, where there's a little bit of sticker shock. MobX clocks in at 57 kilobytes for just MobX, and then MobX React Lite is going to cost you another $6K. So about $57K for bundle size, according to Bundlephobia. So, yeah, not great. I would say if you're looking for a similarly API'd state manager that's less size, you might want to look at Valtio, which has pretty much exactly the same proxy state API surface and clocks in at a trim 4.9 kilobytes. But MobX is the true classic when it comes to proxy state managers like this one. So, and it's got a lot of, a good community around it. So definitely some good pros and cons there. Okay. Sorry, I closed my comment screen. I'm a little thrown off by the whole audio thing this time around because it's like, streaming, it just hasn't been as easy as it was. I'm kind of bummed because I want to do some cool stuff. And in particular, today, I want to do this double header. And so let's take a look at part 2 of our double header. But before we get there, I did want to mention a few things. I set up a Buy Me a Coffee account. So you can buy me a coffee. And that's in the description down below. That goes to basically figuring out thumbnails and SEO to try and get more folks to view these videos and to get the value out of them. So if you like the channel and you want to support it, then absolutely just buy me a coffee. Also, I want to give a huge shout out to Ayush or Cheesecake on the Discord server. Awesome guy. He's been really helping out with the thumbnails lately as well as the SEO stuff. So thank you so much. And then finally, of course, if you like the video, hit that like button. And if you really like these videos, just hit that subscribe button. And there you go. So let's talk about our second part to our double header. And that is a SVG-based lava lamp. So I'm going to bring up the one that I currently have and start it up for you so you can see what I'm talking about. And I'll put that over here. Start that up. Actually, you know what? I'll put it on the side of the screen. Oops, hold on. Let me shut down my MobX over here. Nope, I want to keep it on the same port. So if you're not familiar with SVG, SVG is scalable vector graphics. and it's been built into the browsers for a long time. It got great cross-platform support. There's three key components that you should know about it. One, obviously, it's scalable, meaning that if you zoom in on this to any degree, you're going to get an absolutely flawless look, because the way that you define the elements as vectors, you just basically say a line from A to B, and then it allows your client to go and render it at the highest possible fidelity for that device. So you don't have, for example, the issues of having like a 2x for mobile or whatever to deal with, retina displays, that kind of stuff. SVG just natively scales that way. The second big thing to know about it is it is a powerhouse of really cool graphic stuff that is essentially like Photoshop level stuff right in your browser. So it's fantastic. And then the third part that I think is really important about it is that it's automatable. You can use React, you can use JavaScript to build this, any kind of animations you want or that kind of stuff. So we're going to look at SVG, we're going to look at React animations, and we're going to look at building a custom hook, which is going to make it easy to track and manage the blobs. So you'll understand a little bit more about how to do custom hooks, which I think is really important going forward. Okay, so this is what we want to build. We want to build our SVG lava lamp. I hope that's exciting to people. I think it's kind of cool. Looks pretty cool. So I'm going to put that on the side of the screen like that and get rid of our to-do list. Okay. There we go. Okay. So now we got it like kind of side by side there. Looking good. Can I show you how to use MobX utils for the... I'll have a look at that. Let's finish up on the SVG stuff, and then we can circle back on SVG utils. I've definitely seen Lottie, for sure. Absolutely. Very excited about Lottie as well. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to shut this one down because this is not what we're going to do. This is the original one. We're going to go make this for ourselves, but I'm going to use it as an example since I wrote this exactly once. Okay, let's go over here to this one, and we'll do yarn create React app, and we'll call it lava, and we'll make it a template of Typescript. Yeah, I love Lottie graphics. Lottie graphics are super cool, especially since now I've gotten into After Effects. Actually, all of the videos that you see on the Blue Collar Coder channel all end up going through After Effects to go and add in animations and things like that. So I've gotten pretty decent at After Effects, and the idea of being able to go and take After Effects stuff and convert it into animated SVG is just super, super cool. So Lottie graphics for the win there. I actually didn't know it was SVG, but that's very cool. All right, so now we're building out our package. Yeah, Rodrigo, that's one of the cool things about MobX in particular is you like Redux, you get that great kind of community around it because it's been around for so long. MobX has a great following behind it, which is really nice to see. All right. Cool. All right, let's bring up VS Code on Lava. All right, where's my browser? So we can like kind of align it here. There we go. Beautiful. Okay. So let's go bring up the source. Everything's in TSX now. That's awesome. So I'm going to go and kind of trim this down a little bit because we don't need pretty much any of that. And then over in our app CSS, I'm going to take that down as well. I'm going to make the app width 400 px and margin auto it to put it in the middle of the screen. Give it a little padding on top. All right. And let's see, let's just start it up first. Get that out of the way for us so we can just look at the code. And if everything works, then we'll get a blank screen over here. A very compelling blank screen. Beauteous. Okay. Hello. Perfect. All right. So the first thing we need to do is create an SVG tag. Or actually, let's create a lava component. And we'll give it a width of 400 and a height of 800. And we'll create that lava component. We'll give it a width and a height as parameters. That width and height are going to be numbers. And then I'm going to return an SVG tag. And I'm going to set that width and height. And give it a style with a border around it so we can see it. Okay. Hey, looking pretty good. A nice start. So how do you do some circles in SVG? Well, all you got to do is just say circle. And there's four really critical parameters. CX would be your circle X center X. So I'm going to put that at, say, 200. I'm just going to show you right now how the lava works. So CY is going to be like 250. And then we're going to get a radius of 50 and a fill color of black. There you go. Ta-da! Circle. Cool. So now let's put another one kind of close by. And I'll show you how we're going to do our blobs. Let's see. So we'll call that 250. We'll move it down the screen a little bit, make it a little smaller. All right, that's a little too far away. Let's do 300. That's a little too close. 325. All right. Yeah, the first thing you want to do in all these kind of projects is like basically get the very first thing you want out of the way, which in this case is that lava effect. So to do that, we are going to put these both in a same graphics group and apply a filter to that graphics group. So the filter is going to be called goo. And I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to go over to the done thing and grab in that filter. But we're going to walk through how it works. All right. Yeah, cool. You see how it blends together already? So here's what's happening. So we do some definitions. That's one thing you get to do in SVGs, create some definitions. And one of those is a filter with the ID of goo. That's what connects it up here. That's the hash goo. And for the moment, I'm just going to go and comment that out. And we're going to see what happens. So what's happening is we do this Gaussian blur. And we give it a standard deviation of 8, which kind of gives us that kind of fuzz. You can change that. So a standard deviation of 2 would make it a little less fuzzy. 4 would make it more fuzzy. 8 makes it kind of very fuzzy. 16 makes it very, very fuzzy. But you can start to see there's a little bit of some edge clipping there. That's not so good. So 8 is a nice round thing there. Nice effect. And then we're going to do this color matrix. And so what's going to happen here is we're going to bring in that blur and then apply this matrix math to it. And that's going to give us this. Essentially what we're doing is we're thresholding. So let's go take a look at our documentation for FE color matrix. So what color matrix does is it applies to the red, green, blue, alpha, and then a kind of universal weight. And so we're saying here is that for the red, green, and blue, we're just going to keep them all the same. That's what these 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, these ones basically change the color, and they basically say don't change the color at all. But this one says, take that alpha and then jam it up, multiply by 21. So we go over here and we go back to our lava. Cool. And we start tweaking this a little bit. You can make it a little less gooey by changing this value down. You can make it a little more gooey by changing this value up. About 50. There you go. Are you refreshing? Is that not? Okay. Oh, fun Saturdays. Oh, did I just mess up the... Okay, there you go. Let's jam this up. 500. Yeah. So that gives you a bit too much. So you can just kind of tweak these values until you get the effect that you're looking for. Maybe you want bigger bubbles. Maybe you want smaller bubbles. But yeah, it's nice to just be able to kind of play with it and see what effect you're looking for. Okay. So now that we got this going, now we want to go and animate this. We want to go and create a bunch of bubbles and then have them move. So what we're going to do is create some state and manage these bubbles. So the way they're going to do that is with a custom hook. So I'm going to go and create a custom hook called use lava. And we're going to define in there an interface that's going to be a lava bubble. So I'll call it lava bubble or just lava. We'll give it an X position, a Y position, and a velocity, that how fast it's going to move up the screen. It's going to have a radius. All this is going to be kind of random. And let's see, it's going to have a color. It's going to be a string. And so how do we know what the surface area is? We need to seed our custom hook with a width, in this case a number, and a height, also a number. And then the amount, the number of bubbles that we want, so the count, I guess, which is also a number. All right, so let's create some state. Call it bubbles, or lava. Yeah, I guess, yeah, bubbles. Keep on jumping around bubbles here. So it's set bubbles. And then we'll do use state. And we'll say that this is going to be an array of lava. All right, cool. So now let's import use state. And we're going to return bubbles. Cool, nice. Now we want to initialize that. So how are we going to do that? Well, we'll use effect. And the first time that we call this, we're going to initialize our array of bubbles. Start off with an empty array, meaning that we only want this to run once. And then we will create some bubbles. So let's go create a bubble creator. So let's call that create bubbles, or create a bubble. And it's just going to return an X, which is somewhere between 0 and the width. We're going to create Y. And we're going to start the Y off really low. We're going to start it off at the bottom of the screen down here. So we're going to say that it starts at the height. And then we're going to add on math.random times, like, say, I don't know, 400. We'll set a velocity, and that's going to be math.random times, I don't know. Let's start off at 1. See how that goes. What else do we need? We need a radius. Call that math.random times 20 plus, but no lower than 10. So that's going to give us between 10 and 30. And then finally, for the color, let's just go with like blue as a starting point. Okay, cool. So in order to create our bubbles, we're going to create our initial batch. We're going to set the bubbles to an array with a count. And then we're going to fill that array with zeros just to start off. And then we're going to then map in a create bubble. So that's going to create a bubble for each one of those items. All right. So that's basically how we initialize the bubbles array. So let's go over and actually use this bubbles array and the whole use lava hook. So we're going to say that we want bubbles out of our use lava. And now we get to give it our width and our height and our count. So it's, I don't know, because it was 60 or so. Sounds decent. And then down here, we're just going to go and wrap one of these guys in a bubble, in an array of bubbles. So let's go and take our bubble and our index, and we'll copy in our circle, like so. And now we can just start filling in stuff. So bubble.x for sure, bubble.y, and then bubble.radius, and also bubble.color. Okay. Object is possibly undefined. Interesting. Okay. Oh, right, because that starts off at nothing. So let's start off an empty array. Hey, okay. Ooh, look. Cool. So we can actually start seeing the bubbles. That's nice. But if we were to go in here, I'm going to bet you that React is complaining about it. So let's go check out the console. And it says, yeah, so we need a unique key for each child prop. So we need some sort of ID, right, that we're going to pass on. So we'll call that a number. And then when you're building these custom hooks, which I really encourage you to do, there's two different ways to store state. And one is use state. So that's when, and we're all very familiar with that. And the contract is that you get back a value and a setter. And then when you set it, it then goes and forces a refresh, right? But let's say that we want to also track the ID, but we don't want it necessarily to just force a refresh every time we change the ID. Well, the way that you do that is you use a ref. So ref is just a value, but changing that value doesn't actually force a refresh. So we'll create a new ref called ID, and we'll start off at 0. And then we can just go down here and we can say that the ID is the id.current, and that's the current value of the ID, but then go and add 1 every time. And so this ID is just going to incrementally keep ascending, but by changing the current value, it doesn't force a refresh. So it's a really nice way to store state in one of these custom hooks without actually forcing a refresh when that state changes. Okay, let's go take that ID and plop it down in here. So we no longer need that index. We can just do key equals and then bubble.id. And we'll get React off of our back. Okay, so looks like it's doing good. And let's see, is React still angry at us? Let's refresh. Looking good. Great. Cool. Awesome. So let's animate this. This is looking exciting. So next thing we need to do is create a timer. So I'm going to go and do timer, and we're going to set an interval as a function, and we'll do it every, how about 50 milliseconds? Seems reasonable. And then the first thing we want to do is when you do any kind of stuff like this, you want to make sure that you unload that timer when you're done. In this case, in the effect, all we need to do is just return a function that unloads that timer. So that's going to do clear interval and clear that timer out. That's one important thing to remember. All right, the next thing we need to do is set the bubbles. So we're going to go and create, say set bubbles. And here's a problem that we have. We only run this once And so if we were to address bubbles directly, we wouldn't actually get the most current bubbles. We would get the ones we started with. So what we want to do is we want to get the current set of bubbles. So set state can also take a function, which in this case takes the current state, and then we can then mutate it. So current bubbles is an array of the bubbles, but it's the one that we currently have. And we're going to go and then move them. So we're going to say, so okay, current bubbles is a map of that. We're going to go take the bubble and return a new bubble for that each one. And for the Y position, we're just going to add the Y plus the velocity. All right, cool. And then we're going to return the new current bubbles. Haha, okay. They're going down the screen. I love it. There you go. Cool. Ah, nice. We're starting off our, okay, so that's cool. Let's actually make this a little faster. Yeah, not bad, not bad. Okay, so what's going to happen is they're all going to go up and then they're going to disappear. They're just going to like, that's it, you're done. Because what's going to happen is they all keep going off into the great beyond. So what we need to do then is we need to filter those out. So we need to then filter the ones that have gone into the great beyond. So let's see, bubble. So bubble.y has to be greater than minus 50 or so. So now this array is going to be smaller. As they go off the top of the screen, it's going to go from 60 to 59 to 58. So we need to kind of replace the have around. So let's go and say 1 is less than the count. Then we're going to add on a new bubble. And that's going to keep this going forever and ever and ever. It's actually really, really cool. So, okay. So that's pretty neat. Two more things that I would say we need to handle here. One is there's a little bit of a fun thing that I like to do at the bottom on this. And that's go and add in a rectangle. If you ever actually seen a lava lamp, there's actually this big blob of lava at the bottom. And they should kind of emerge from that. So I'm going to go and create a rectangle in here. And rect is another thing that you can do in SVG. And we're going to say that the X is minus 50. The Y is the height of the display or whatever, this whole blob in this lava area. The width of the rectangle is the width plus 100 or so. The height of it is, you can make this whatever you want, but I'm going to put in 50. And then the fill color is blue. And now you can see you get this cool little like effect down the bottom of these things emerging from this base down here. And you can play with that. Make it whatever you want. You can make it like an oval or whatever. Have a lot of fun with it. And then the last thing I want to do is give us a little bit of color. I don't like that it's all just blue like that. So I'm going to go and stop this. And then I'm going to bring in an NPM module called color interpolate. And I'm going to start it up. And this is just a really handy function that gives you give it a couple of different points, a couple of different colors, and then it gives you a function back that allows you to go and interpolate, give it a random number or whatever, some sort of number between 0 and 1, and it gives you a color to match that. So let's go and take Interpolate from color Interpolate. And then we'll make a color range. That's an interpolation from, let's see, let's go blue to dark blue. And it wants an array of those because you can actually create different stop points along the way. It's actually a nice little function here. And we'll do color range. And in this case, we're just going to say color range and then give it a random number. Random just happens to be between 0 and 1, and that fits quite nicely. So now we can start seeing that we actually get some different colors, a little bit of dark blue in there, a little bit of blue. You can even like go from, let's see, light red to dark red. I'm hoping those are actual values. I guess you would have gotten the red lava lamp in that case. Oh, or not. Please move the camera. Camera. Oh, right. My bad. Thank you. Let's go over here. Okay. There we go. Thank you for that. All right. So let's go from light blue to red and see how trippy that is. Ooh, that's kind of neat. I like it. So lots of cool stuff. Where can I put myself that actually gets out of the way? Here, I'll put myself over here so you can just get the whole effect. Anyway, I love things like that. I love little animations and things that you can play around with and add some value. And I love the idea that all of this is GPU accelerated, so this is actually not very time consuming on your CPU, and you get a really nice kind of cool effect with this. So enjoy that, and hope you learned a little bit about MobX in the beginning part of this, and then now a little bit about SVG and about how to go and create your own custom hooks and how to manage those. If you really get into custom hooks, and I hope you do, you should jump on over to reactjs, which is a fantastic set of React hooks. And these are just a whole, when you think about building your own custom hooks, I mean, you just think about it like a library of little tools that can help you build really cool hooks that allow you to disambiguate the presentation code from the business logic. I mean, if we look down in here, right? So now the lava component, right? Its whole job is to basically render whatever is in this hook. And this hook has some fairly reasonable, interesting logic in it. But what I've seen out there in the real world is folks just kind of smushing these things together, right? You get these massive functional components that are just use state. And it's far better to go and create a custom component or a custom hook that you can then potentially reuse in other places. It gives you something a little easier to test. And reactjs shows you how to do that, right? You can go take a lot of these hooks and then just see how are they implemented. And you can go look at the source. They're all Typescript, so that's really cool. You could take a look at, let's see, use previous value. That's a fun one. And these are tiny little hooks. This one basically just gives you the last value that it saw. So I would definitely recommend, if you are into this sort of stuff, then take a look at reactjs and have a look around. Doblado, so can we possibly use a window request animation frame? Sure, absolutely. Yeah, let's go. If you don't know what Doblado is talking about, there's also, in addition to window.setInterval, there is window.requestanimationframe. Kind of works in a similar way. So let's go take a look. So we want to do request animation frame. And then at the end of this, once we've set our we want to then set another request animation frame for the callback. So we need to change this into a callback. Call this move bubbles. And this could potentially be a lot faster, or not. Okay, so there you go. And what this is doing, which is different from window.setInterval, is actually allowing the browser to pick a time when it's the best time for you to go and alter the state of your animation, such that on the next refresh, then it'll be in the right spot. And in general, it gives you better, smoother animations. So thank you to Bellotto for bringing that up. That's fantastic. Great point. Awesome. Oh, one more thing, actually, now that I think about it, and this is really important too. An issue that you might have in this is when you call set bubbles, the component might be unmounted. And so the way that you can trap that is, at least in this case, I can say that when this use effect is run, then we know for sure that we are mounted to the window and a set bubbles should be fine. But we should go test that. So if we're only going to run that if we are mounted. And then down here in the return from the use effect, we're going to return a function. But all that's going to do is it's just going to set that is mounted to false. That basically means that this window is no longer around. Don't do any sets, because those sets might end up trying to cause a refresh on a component that is no longer mounted. So that's something to keep in mind when you do your custom hooks, or really any kind of thing where you've got a callback into your component. So yes. All right. Well, I think I covered everything that I wanted to cover. Thank you guys so much for spending a little bit of your Saturday afternoon with me. I'm sorry if there were audio issues. That's a bummer. I will endeavor to get those fixed. But again, yeah, thank you so much for showing up. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Maybe a doubleheader, maybe not. I don't know. And thank you so much.